guys, so a while back I made a post on my X, previously Twitter, where I was sharing a brief, snap into my past, where I came from. I shared a picture of my very first batch of chickens that I started out. That was in what? May 2019. Now that batch of chickens I bought using a bicycle. I transported using a bicycle. Of course, I paid with money. I paid for 750 chickens. With the extras, they got about 801, something like that. And I transported them using a bicycle to a taxi park where I put them in a taxi. A taxi is like a mini bus that carries 14 people. So I just paid for an entire row, put them at the back, and then transported them over to the farm. I remember, I think they arrived late in the night because, transporting them was quite a hassle. They arrived late in the night. When they arrived about 20 kilometers away from the farm, there's no more taxis. I had to transport them on a motorcycle to the farm. So when we got to the farm, of course, everything started out, and with time, I got to grow and everything. And last year, I got myself a Toyota Hilux. I know if you've been following the channel, you've been, seeing it. It's what I've been using. And occasionally, when the guys around are overwhelmed, I utilize it to make deliveries to the clients. Now, of course, I do have a tricycle. Over here, we call them tuk-tuks, which we then use to deliver to clients, around and far. It can move as far as 25, 30 kilometers away to make deliveries. But once in a while, I do use the Hilux. Now, I posted and shared that story, and of course, it's a very motivational story for a lot of people starting out, and a lot of people will love it. A lot of people will, share it with other people. But just like in any community, there's outliers. There's the crazy ones, the ones who never believe it, the ones who think it's not possible in 4 years to move from a bicycle to a Toyota Hilux. Now, that's really crazy because honestly, a Toyota Hilux costs only what? $45,000 US. In all reality, I personally have talked and rubbed shoulders with people who started with nothing, and in 8 years they are making over $100 million. Over $100 million in 8 years. Now, $45,000 in 4 years, that's nothing. Now, what's the moral of the story? If you're starting out and you want to start a farm and you don't have the mentality and perception and believe that you can actually make it, then you can never make it. You see, for these people who never believe what I posted, of course, if you're watching this video and you've come over here, most probably you're interested in learning. Your goal is not to scrutinize. Now, I really don't care about people who scrutinize. I don't give a damn. They affect me completely, not at all. For me, my goal is to take my life forward. But if you're watching this video, your goal is not to scrutinize. It is to learn. And so I hope that if you want to start a farm, you're open to the possibilities of the possible growth. What you need to understand is that everyone starts somewhere. You need to understand and believe that you must be able to grow. The thing about life and the thing about success, whether it's in agriculture or not, is that it starts with your belief. It starts with you understanding that it is possible for me. When I was starting out my farms, I'm just standing here right beside me. You can see chicken houses. I have 3 chicken houses right here. That's 7,000 birds, 7,500 birds. 25 that are laying right now. When I started out, like I've shared with you, it was only 800 chickens. 750, you might say, depending on what you want to think. But it was only that small number. Now, for some people, that's a really huge number. For some people, that's a small number. But you must believe, you must have the faith, you must understand that it's actually possible. That's what's going to cause you to get out of bed each and every morning. Now, currently, I personally don't get out and go and work inside the houses. I rarely ever even step inside the chicken houses. It's been, I don't know, over a week that I've been here, and I think I've only entered the chicken house twice. I think I've entered this chicken house once, and I've entered this chicken house once for probably about 5 minutes the time I stepped here, and like 2 minutes the time I stepped there. For the entire time I've been here. Why? Because I've developed systems, I've developed people to run the entire thing. But at the beginning, I had to get up. Every time I would step on the farm, at that time I wasn't like fully present because I was still working as a doctor. But as soon as I would get back, everyone was mesmerized by my work ethic. I would just get back, put on my overall, put on my gumboots. At that time I didn't have an overall. I was just, wearing my normal clothes. I would just put on my clothes, farm clothes, and then put on my gumboots and enter the chicken house. I'm checking out how are the birds feeding, how are they laying, how are they looking, how are they physically, what's their physical stature. And everyone was mesmerized. They're like, man, this guy, as soon as he gets here, he doesn't even eat food, he's entering the chicken house. That's what's going to give you the drive. If you do have the belief, if you do have the faith in yourself that you can make it, that's what's going to give you the belief. Now, the next thing is that you must gather knowledge. You must gather knowledge. I personally, when I was starting out, I didn't have knowledge. I've always shared and consistently shared that I didn't grow up in a farming background. My parents were not farmers. Well, they were farmers growing up, but I grew up in the city. My dad was a driver. at that point, yeah? He was driving, you know, trucks and doing deliveries and things like that and sales. My mom was working as a salon person in a salon, you know, plaiting hair. I don't know what they call them, yeah? A hairstylist, yeah. She was plaiting hair from the time I started understanding to the time the Lord took her to heaven. That's what she was doing. So it's not like I grew up in a farming background. I grew up in the city, I mean, you know, crossing roads and doing all this kind of stuff. But I was open to learning, yeah? The one thing I personally believe and the one thing I got taught very earlier on when I was younger in school is that the purpose of school is not to train you to do the things that ideally you're learning. You see, that's the one thing people get completely wrong. For me, it became really easy for me to leave practicing medicine as a profession, for me to go and do farming, because I understood that the whole purpose of school is not to make me stuck in my profession. I understood that the purpose of school is to teach you how to learn. That's why you go to school, to understand how to learn, to understand how to conceptualize things, to understand how to figure out things. And once you learn that, you can apply that knowledge in everything else that you do, yeah? That's what you need to understand. So I was open to learning. I was open to learning poultry farming. And right now, I'm so much an expert at poultry farming that I know it much better than a lot of people who went to school to study poultry farming. I understand how to do poultry farming as a business, but I also understand to do poultry farming technically. I mean, I can run a poultry farm physically present there. So then you need to open up your mind. You need to be willing and open to learn. You need to be willing to invest in your learning. Sometimes you need to invest in your learning, yeah? For me personally, I didn't really invest too much money in terms of my learning earlier on because there was nowhere to get that knowledge. There are people who I tried to contact to go and do some form of trainings and sessions. They never got back to me, yeah? And I understand that a lot of you people have been trying to do the same with me and I haven't, you know, been getting back to you because, first of all, I don't let people come on the farm at the moment because of biosecurity measures. Part of my learning process was the fact that I lost a lot of birds due to disease, yeah? I mean, I remember I raised a batch of about 1,000 chickens, and with that batch, I sold them at around 26 weeks because they were sick. They got fall typhoid and they started dying, and I think 400 of them died. By the time I sold them, I had about 600 left, and it was at a loss. By the time 1,000 birds get to 26 weeks, you have spent upwards of $15,000 US on them, you know, in terms of the feed and everything. At that time, considering the feed cost, I'd spent upwards of $15,000 US. So for me, that was a very huge price for me to pay and learn. And I learned from experience by making a lot of mistakes and, you know, trying to correct them over here and over there. Every time something wrong would go and happen on the farm, I would learn. I would try to implement it. I would learn. I would try to implement it. But you don't need to go through exactly that. First of all, I've made this YouTube channel. I've been sharing a lot of things on this YouTube channel for you to learn as much as possible. Second of all, I'm bringing up the Farm Up Academy. Yes, the Farm Up Academy is coming up. Now, that's the way that you're actually going to be able to access and learn as much as possible. Yeah, you might not be able to get me physically because I've been getting too many people trying to consult with me. Too many. I would accept a few of them because, of course, I can't divide my time into too many people. But again, it becomes really difficult. Once in a while, I will travel over to some people's farms, to some people's countries to help them set up their farms. But again, that's quite stressing. It's quite tiring for me in particular, considering I do have businesses to run. So because of that, I decided to come up with the Farm Up Academy. It's going to be coming up very soon. But before it does come up, I've offered a free webinar, a free training, a free online training with me, myself, for anyone who wants to start a farm. In that training, I'm going to be sharing with you guys how to start a poultry farm, you know, how to deal with diseases, how to prevent diseases on the farm, how to deal with feeding on the farm, because, you know, these are the two main reasons as to why, you know, farmers struggle with their farms, yeah? The feeding and, you know, dealing with diseases. These two things are really important. How to plan, how to do it as a business. I'm going to be offering this free training. This is not something I've ever done before. No, I've never done this before. It's going to be completely free. So if you're interested in it, I'm going to leave a link in the description about how you can join. In that link, you'll be able to find out how to join and when exactly it's going to happen. I trust you like it, so come on, click in there and don't miss out on the opportunity to get as much information as possible. And the other thing is that you've got to start somewhere. Yes, you've got to start somewhere. The one thing people keep telling me is that, hey doctor, I don't have capital, I don't have money. What the hell do I do? I'll tell you something. Go and find a job. I know I've said this so many times, but there's nothing else I can say. Go find a job. It doesn't matter whether it's paying you $50 a month, $200 a month. It doesn't matter. Go find a job and start with what you can start with. With $50 a month, if you struggle so much and manage to save $25 every month, in 10 months, you'll have $250. In 20 months, which is just over a year and a half, you'll have $500. Guys, I'll tell you something. $500 can actually start a farm. It seems like 20 months, that's just over 1.5 years. $2,500 seems like a long time, but before you know it, you'll be there. That's it. Before you know it, the time will have passed and you'll be, 1.5 years later. And if you haven't been trying to save the $25 every month, then you won't have anything to live to. You won't have anything to work towards. You'll have missed out on the opportunity. So save whichever amount of money that you can save. With $500, you can start a small broiler farm. Start from there, get some profit, keep expanding. Then you might become the biggest broiler supplier in your area. You might at some point have 20,000, 30,000, 50,000 birds on your farm only after starting with $500. So you've got to start somewhere. Open up your heart, be willing to start anywhere. You don't need to wait to get big houses like I am. You see, I'll tell you something. The thing with starting is that the biggest thing you're earning is the experience, the learning. You see, the knowledge you're going to utilize to run a farm that only has 300 chickens, 500 chickens, is going to be the principal fundamental knowledge you'll need even to run a farm with 100,000 chickens. The difference is not going to be so big. So the price you're paying is the price of knowledge, the price of experience at the beginning, yeah? That's the price you're paying. Now, someone who wants to start with 100,000 chickens, I would advise that you actually pay a bit more attention and put in more money and pay more detail to learning and understanding what you're doing, because for you the risk is even much greater. For you to start with 100,000 chickens, you're going to invest a lot of money. I mean, hundreds of thousands of US dollars into that business, maybe even millions, yeah? So for you to start with that number, you need to make sure that you're well invested. You need to make sure that you're focused. Even just 2,000 birds, you need to make sure that you have the right knowledge so that you don't lose money. I've told you guys, with just 1,000 birds, I spent at least 15 to 18,000 US dollars. That's the amount of money I lost because my flock didn't grow up really well. So you want to invest in your knowledge, in understanding, in learning these things so that you don't risk your money and you don't risk losing your money, yeah? But start as small as you can, yeah? If you can't start with 1,000 birds, start with 50, start with 100. Learn, utilize that knowledge, use the little profit you're getting out of it to keep expanding, and before you know it, you'll be in big places. And then finally, diversify, but remain focused. Yes, you've got to diversify. So the whole advantage of diversifying is that it gives you alternatives. For me, you'll ask, how did I diversify? Number one, the YouTube channel. You can see the YouTube channel. You see, these are things that you can do now. The YouTube channel actually does pay me. If you didn't know, it does pay me. I do get some money from YouTube. And it gives me an extra, I would say, level of confidence or backup. Once in a while, I'll get money from there and utilize it to do something around. Maybe, put up a water tank, something like that, stuff on the farm. Maybe if I've gotten a lot of the money out of the business and I'm using it for something, I can utilize the money to pay salaries for the guys. So that's the purpose of diversifying. Maybe you get someone who wants to work with you because you've become knowledgeable, you know what to do. They want you to invest in their business. You invest in that form of business. You diversify just to spread your wings. But keep your main focus. Don't be like these kinds of people who get to, I don't know, 1,000 birds and they're like, okay, now I've gotten to 1,000 birds. I need to focus on other things. So you get the money out. You keep your 1,000 birds and then you go and do goat farm. Then after that, you go and do a pig farm. Then after that, you go and do a cattle farm. That's a recipe for failure. You know why? Because like I've shared with you, the amount of time and knowledge you require to grow to 1,000 birds is the same knowledge you're going to require to grow to 10,000 birds. i.e., you've already paid the investment capital in terms of knowledge of growing to 1,000 birds, of learning how to look after chickens. Why then waste your time and money going to learn something else from scratch, yet you can now utilize the knowledge and the connections and the links you've gotten to simply expand that business? If let's say a full glass is the amount of knowledge required to look after 100,000 chickens, by raising 1,000 chickens, you've probably gotten 90% of the knowledge you require and the skills and everything. You're only left with 10% to get to 100,000. So why go start a pig farm, for example, where you're going to start again from zero, from an empty glass, try to get it to 90%, go through all the risks, the stress, getting new links, getting everything, yet you could just utilize the skills and the knowledge and the investment you've gotten to simply expand what you have, you see? So the idea with businesses is that you've got to focus on one business, try to grow it as big as possible, get the most that you can get out of it before you go into others or as you go into others. So don't sacrifice one business before you go on to the rest. If you have decided to focus on goats, focus on the goats, grow them really big, really big, that you can't expand or that you feel like, okay, this is big enough, then you can go into something else because you've spent a lot of time, a lot of knowledge, you've trained your workers, you've trained yourself, you've got connections, you've got all this stuff. You don't want to just leave it over there and then go and try getting a new skill set again from the beginning. So make sure that you focus, concentrate on one business, diversify, but keep concentrating on one business. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, smash the notification bell. Catch you very soon with another video. Lots of love. Bye-bye.